Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach podcast. And here with us today is an unbelievably high demand coach in the one and only Mitch Carson, who for the past 30 plus years has helped hundreds of speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, and business owners worldwide to land TV and radio interviews, boosting their credibility instantly and aiding them to charge premium prices for their products and services. As a television show host on NBC Channel 3 in Las Vegas, he knows what it has done for him and his clients. Mitch is also a celebrated professional speaker and closer who has spoken on stages in 63 countries and produced over 2,000 live events in 19 countries. He's also a published author with John Wiley and Sons and has his books published in 6 different languages. He's here with us today. Mitch, thanks for being on the show. So excited to have you here. We've had a little bit of a break on the show in terms of folks who really specialize in the area of publicity and TV and radio. And so I'm very excited about this. I've actually bumped into it with a couple of clients. And so I'm already thinking of folks I'm going to share this recording with. But my first question for you here out of the gate is I just want to land on who, in the world of entrepreneurship, founders, business owners, who would benefit the most from becoming a business celebrity, if you will?
If you're in a business that could be perceived as commoditized, let's say if you are a realtor and you're with Century 21 or Remax and you go to a mixer and someone asks you, hey, what do you do? The knee-jerk reaction response is, I sell houses, or I work for Remax as a realtor. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have just put yourself in the sea of sameness.
Mm,
And sameness equals mediocre income, if any income at all. Because the ones that have distinction in the marketplace make the lion's share of the money. I mean, the old 80-20 Pareto principle isn't accurate. It's more like I think it's 90% control, 10%, or excuse me, 90% of the income is controlled by 10% of the people.
wow.
So it's the people who go the extra mile, and I'm using people because I don't want to get in trouble with the wokeness today. So people who choose to be distinctive in the marketplace take the lion's share of the money home.
Yeah.
And being distinctive is what publicity will do for you.
Mm, I love that. So there are a number of folks that I work with, folks that listen to the show, who are business owners, and they've got a great service. Maybe they've got a great reputation in kind of their circles. Are doing really good work. They've got a team around them now, and they're feeling the pressure of I've got to keep all these people fed, right? Like we've got to have work to do. We've got to get off of this roller coaster of work and create some kind of stable inflow of new business and new opportunity. So part of that can be a platform where they can share their brand and just get their message out there. But it's so overwhelming, right? Where do you start? How do you start beginning to tackle creating a platform, sharing your message?
Today, it does involve social media. If you were to ask me this question 15 years ago, the answer might be different than it is today. Regardless of the niche, you have to embrace where your clients exist. Where will they find you? So it's some people, it might be TikTok. And that's a younger demographic than, let's say, my age group it would be most appropriate to be visible on YouTube and LinkedIn. So it depends where your audience swims. Where are they swimming? You've got to feed that pond.
Yeah.
And so social media is important today. It's not necessarily to sell directly, but to justify your credentials. And I'm a big fan of traditional media as well as the newer media of podcasting. Here I am. Thank you. And it's a privilege to be on your show. At one time, podcasting was not well received. Today, if you're not on podcasting, you're missing out. Things have shifted in the media horizon. Some people will say, well, television doesn't matter. Oh, really? Which networks hosted the debates between
Yeah.
Biden and Trump, and then Trump and Kamala Harris?
Mm.
We know what happened. They weren't on Joe Rogan's podcast. They weren't on Billy Bob's YouTube channel. They're on major networks, still have the highest credibility. And one of the services I provide clients in my market in Las Vegas is guaranteed television exposure, being interviewed on major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, the CW. And those are so high on the food chain, and it opens up more doors to getting published in Forbes, getting published in Entrepreneur Magazine, to getting exposure in maybe local newspapers is a great way to start. Depends if your business is regional, is it national, or is it international? You have to pick, and you have to create a plan and execute it.
So one of the challenges I've seen folks bump into, and I hear this a lot, is, well, I don't get any of my business from fill in the blank, from TV, from social media, from any of these things. My clients aren't there, right? How do you help folks to see maybe where their clients are? You rattled off a couple there ahead of time, but how do you know where your clients are online?
Simply by an old-fashioned survey. SurveyMonkey can handle this. If they have an email list of their clients and ask them with an incentive, okay, participate in this brief survey of 5 questions. Make it very simple. The old days, they would be out in a mall doing surveys, taster tests, or what have you. Use SurveyMonkey or another type of program like that. It's the one that I know of. Email your list. The responses you get will blow you away. What do you read? Are you reading any books? What publications? And are you on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, or Pinterest? That skews more towards the female demographic. In America, overseas, Pinterest doesn't exist. So it depends where your clients exist. And when people say to you, oh, they're not on any of those social media, I say, are they breathing, or are these people that actually are alive? So if they're alive, they're on some platform. Very few people in my years on this planet don't use social media today.
Yeah.
They have to be hidden under a rock, don't you think, Scott?
I do. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
What So if folks are on those platforms and
Mhm.
we're not breaking through, one of the next obvious candidates for something being wrong is that we're not sharing a message that's connecting. How do you help folks to really dial in what message they should be sharing, especially on social media or even on TV and radio?
Well, the first thing that I would start with is, what's your elevator pitch? And that matters regardless of what industry you're in. When
Mhm.
somebody asks you at a party or at the ground level in an elevator, "Hey, Scott, what do you do?" And if you say, you've lost them, your credentials goes right out the window. If you say, "I help entrepreneurs go from just under $1 million in revenues to $10 million in typically 6 months following a proven system." That
Mhm.
very clearly identifies who you help and what the result is. That's just one off the top of my head, because I asked you a couple questions before we began. Who do you serve? Okay. Well, who is it you serve? You're not going to say, I help Fortune 500 companies. You're not in that market. You help the $1 million entrepreneur or the near $1 million entrepreneur scale and profit to $10 million plus, possibly being positioned for legacy and or a buyout. I mean, you could craft it any way you want. That might be part of your package. I don't know. Or maybe I gave you an idea for it. But that's a way to get people interested. And guess what? When you provide an elevator pitch or any messaging, the first goal is not to qualify, it's to disqualify.
Wow.
To disqualify. Because if they're not in business for themselves, or they're not in a management position, if it's Becky in accounting, she's not going to, her ears are going to close to what you do. She's not eligible unless she chooses to refer you to her boss
Yeah.
or his boss or whomever. So it's the idea, the objective behind an elevator pitch: disqualify people, because the qualified people will respond and raise their hand and say, tell me more.
Yeah.
You've got to
What
find who's raising their hands.
Yeah. What I found, that takes bravery, Right, and this is one of those areas where, like, being an entrepreneur can become very personal because if folks disqualify themselves, it can feel not like they've disqualified themselves from some kind of abstract thing, but they have said no to you, right? They've rejected you, and so for folks who are kind of going public, it can be scary to have the idea of like, well, folks might not like this or they might not respond to this. What can we do to kind of manage some of the emotion that can be involved with either the stage fright or just that worry about rejection when they do go live?
Know that every no, understand that every no is getting you closer to a yes.
Mm.
I'll go back to my days when I was young and going to discotheques and clubs. If I asked one gal to dance and she said no, I ask another gal that said no. If I ask a third person, the likelihood, the probability is she's going to say yes.
Yeah.
And I got to where, okay, I didn't, first time someone said no to me, I died inside. And I took a very oh my gosh, that's a personal affront. Maybe do I have to go and look in the mirror? I mean, all these things went through my mind, and somebody explained it to me. Somebody older said, just welcome the no's. That
Mm.
means you're closer to yes.
Yeah.
It's a numbers game, and then you'll find who you were more likely going to connect with. And it takes an effort. You got to swing the bat in order to make a connection. I mean, a 300 batting average is fantastic in the major leagues. That means $100 million contract if you're batting over 300. So if you're able to hit 300 through your advertising and your marketing efforts, you're a zillionaire. Holy moly. You don't
Yeah.
close everybody. And the no's educate you for the yeses and to get
Mm.
very clear about your yeses.
Yeah. I love that. So I want to fast forward a little bit. Let's say we've been interviewed. What's next? What are some strategies to leverage that interview? You kind of alluded to this earlier with Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine. How do you leverage that interview to get more interviews or more publicity?
The ultimate media market is New York City. I think that would be universally agreed on. Around the world, New York is the ultimate. To get on the Good Morning America show or any of the morning shows in New York for whatever your product or service is, that's Harvard. That's number one. You've reached the pinnacle. But do you think Harvard accepts all the applications? Do you think Fox News, New York City accepts all the people, all the publicists from around the world, not just the US,
Right.
from around the world that submit, hey, I've got Scott Ritzhelmer here. Is it Ritzhelmer? Heimer.
Retire, yeah.
Ritzheimer here, and he helps entrepreneurs. Great. What's he done? If you show clips of being on TV in Las Vegas, you show clips of being on TV in Tampa, Florida, you show clips in some of the other secondary markets, or if you're in LA, which is number two, if you're on TV in those markets and you have video footage that proves that you won't falter on camera,
Mm.
you have a much greater probability of success in reaching that pinnacle than someone who is completely cold of any media. If you have no media, no booking agent in New York is going to risk his or her job for Scott, unless they met you on a dating profile and then they say, okay, I want to take you out to dinner. It's not going to happen. Because the first line of defense, understand the psychology here, because I have my own TV show here in Vegas.
Hmm.
The booking agent's number one job, one would think, is to find the right guest to match the audience. No, what she thinks, because most of the people who book here, all the agents I work with are women, so I'll just use a woman. What she's worried about is keeping her job. Number one, will this person embarrass me? Do I book this person who has no assets, no publicity, no articles, no nothing, has a LinkedIn profile that's blank, has nothing on the header? Even though I know the publicist very well, I'm not risking my job to put Scott on TV because he has no credentials behind him. But if I'm able to look at his YouTube channel and he's got great videos that cover him and he looks fantastic on camera, I'm going to be more inclined to give him a shot.
Mm.
I'm saving my blank first.
Yes.
I'm putting the mask on my mouth when the turbulence happens on the airplane. I've got to save me first.
Wow.
Then her next thought is, will this be the right fit for the editorial calendar that exists in the news cycle? How do I insert them? Okay, number one, my job is secure. I'm not going to put somebody on air who is going to falter. This is live TV. This is not some YouTube interview. We're doing a podcast interview. God forbid we'd have to start it over. Okay? We would do that if something went awry, technical problem, what have you. Television, there is no second chance.
Right.
That's it. This is the big show. You're in the major leagues of media. Even in the Las Vegas markets, the entertainment capital of the world, I train everybody before they go on TV. They must be media ready. And for them to tell me, oh, I was on, 10 podcasts in my life. Goody for you. That's not television, pal. You've got to be able to speak in sound bites because your interview time is 2.5 minutes to 4 minutes, depending on the show. It's concise, on target. You can't be a motor mouth. Have to be ready.
Mm. So, there's so much that I could unpack in there. I think the biggest question for me is just kind of continuing down this train of thought is we've gotten on, we've got a great message, we've shared that message, we've been on TV, we're kind of climbing the media ladder, if you will. How do we then take that? What are some of the best strategies to take that publicity and turn it into prospects?
If you're national, I'll answer it a couple ways, and then I can be general. It's a leverageable. First of all, publicity should never stop, because I get asked that question a lot. I've gotten onto your show, Mitch. You've got me on 4 TV stations here in Las Vegas. What's next? I said, now it's just the beginning. You've just begun, because now you're able to remove the rear view mirror in your car in this race of your business and life.
Wow.
Because you don't look at the competition. Italian racing is they remove the rear view mirror. You look moving forward. They're going to play catch up. Now you use that leverageable asset. If you live in Atlanta, then you want to use that proof to get on Atlanta TV. You want to use that proof to get on TV in Orlando, Miami, eventually shooting for the moon, which is New York. New York won't look at you unless you've got proof assets in place. You want to use that to get on podcasts. For you to accept me as a guest on your show, you looked at my balance sheet, my one sheet, and said, okay, he's a legitimate guest before you took a risk on me, as you should. And you can also use that TV to write a book, which is an incredible tool. It's a necessary arrow in the quiver of credentializing yourself. And then use it for speaking engagements. Because if you've been on TV, if they're going to consider you, Scott, or Joe Blow for a speaking spot on a big stage with 1,000 people where you're able to sell a program, you've been on TV and Joe Blow hasn't, who are they going to hire? You.
TV.
Yeah, it's credit. You've got a podcast show. You've proven yourself because people will pay for perception. People pay for perceived value. And whether it's real or not, you may be equally talented as Joe Blow, or he might be equally talented to you, but you've gone the extra mile and have gotten yourself on TV. You've created your own podcast show that's booked several months out in advance, and has got credible guests. If they investigate that, because he's the real deal. You'll get booked over Joe Blow. That's what you do with it. It's a door opener wide. I wouldn't trade my publicity for all the tea in China. No way. It's kept me busy on platforms for almost 40 years.
Yeah, you've done it so remarkably well. So, Mitch, there's a question that I like to ask all my guests, and I'm very interested to see what you have to say. What would you say is the biggest secret that you wish wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
I want everybody to know publicity is easier than you think. And the secret is publicists want you to believe that it's some magic science because they want to extract a monthly fee out of you. If you're in New York, it's $10,000 a month minimum and a 6-month contract. They want you to believe that getting in on television shows is so difficult, so hard. No, but it's a formula. It's a matter of understanding what a booking agent is looking for and then opening that door.
Yeah.
And I know it because I live in it every day. But it's not a big secret. That's why I offer guaranteed versus the traditional publicists. They hate me because I guarantee what they charge for 6 months to do in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's easier than you think when you know what to do.
So good. So good. So folks are out there listening. They've loved what you had to say. They want the formula. They're ready to go. They're ready to dive in. How can they reach out to you, find more out about the work that you do?
Getinterviewedguaranteed.com/meet with Mitch. www, please use that, getinterviewedguaranteed/meet with Mitch. Set up a call and we'll walk through your media plan and show you how to execute.
Fantastic. Mitch, thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and advice with us. Amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. And for those of you watching and listening, you know that your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.